Good morning. Thanks for being at the Eagle football press conference. Friday night was homecoming night, and we came away with a hard-fought victory against William Chrisman High School, 48-13. It was a total team effort. We had an excellent special teams play. We got a kickoff return for a touchdown, had several good punt returns. Then offensively, we were able to run the ball the way that we want to, the way we'd hope to run it this year. And defense, once again, did a great job shutting down another team's offense. I'll open it for questions.
So it was 41-0 at halftime. How did that affect the second half of the game for your team?
Well, you know, when a game is 41-0, now at halftime, the coaching staff is looking at ways to substitute, get other kids more experience and playing time, get starters off the field. So there's a lot of conversation about who's going to play what, who needs the reps, how we're going to call the second half, and in terms of sportsmanship. You know, there are a lot of teams that'll leave their starters in and try to pile on 60 and 70 points in that situation. But we look at it as an opportunity to get our younger guys more reps and to get our number twos more preparation, more game time preparation for the next week. So that's mostly the conversation during halftime. Of course, we were really just on edge about who was going to win the homecoming queen and homecoming king as well. So we spent a lot of time anxiously awaiting that announcement. We were excited about that.
How do you keep the team mentally tough for the season?
Well, developing that mental toughness is kind of a year-long thing. You know, a lot of times in the weight room or in the green room down there, we'll make them as uncomfortable as possible in terms of their workouts and so that they can feel what it's like to be tired and still have to keep going. And then when the season starts, we make sure that they are technically proficient. I mean, a big part of mental toughness is just the repetitive movements of being able to execute a skill without having to sit down and think about it and break down every single part of it. And so the whole repetition piece is big on mental toughness. You've got to kind of keep a rhythm to things that you're doing and keep the same rhythm over and over, and that helps them to do the things mindlessly, because we all, if you know a lot of our football players, they need to be able to do things without thinking, because the thinking part isn't always their thing.
With bringing in the younger and less experienced players after halftime, did you have any players you were particularly impressed with?
You know what? Our JV has had an excellent season this year. Yesterday, they won like 55-0 against William Chrisman. They've had a bunch of blowout wins. Our sophomore team is having a great year. Our freshman team is undefeated right now. So we've got a lot of excellent players in those younger groups, and the big thing that they provide us with is an excellent demo squad to practice against all week, and they do the other team stuff. But as far as individuals are concerned, there are a whole lot of young men. Jacob Morris had a couple really big plays. There's just a long list of young guys. Kenton Brandenberry's running the ball really well when he gets into those games in the late stages. I hate saying a couple kids' names because there are dozens of them who are out there doing great.
What was the team's attitude going into the homecoming game?
Well, we try to treat every week with the same goal in mind, and that is that we get better every week. Whatever happens out there on the field that night needs to be something that makes us better, something that we can grow from. And our opponents change, but the way we approach the game never changes. It's the same every time. We try to be sure that that we're mentally prepared to go. Eliminate all the small talk before the game and all that nervous energy sometimes gets those kids acting a little goofy before a game. Try to minimize that. And then just go into the game with the thought that no matter what happens on that field, it's got to be something that's going to make us better, because we know down the road, particularly this week as well, we have some great competition that we have to play against.
What are some strategies you have when facing tough competition?
Well, the key when you face somebody who looks unbeatable or who is an outstanding team is that you don't go back in and try to change everything that you've done to develop your team to be the best it can be. When you do that, you disrupt the rhythm, you disrupt the flow, and there's no way you're going to be better at something that you've practiced for 1 week than you are for something that you've practiced for 3 months. So the biggest temptation as a coach to fight and try to avoid is to try to create all kinds of new things to beat this special team you're playing. You know, when it comes down to it, you beat football teams by blocking and tackling better than they do. And the scheme is relatively secondary at this point in the season.
Have you seen any blessings in disguise this season, like injuries or loss of seniors that have actually turned out to be a positive thing with your team?
Well, you know, we've been pretty fortunate on the injury front. Unfortunately, we've had one young man who loves the game, who's probably ended his season. But as far as serious injuries this year, we've been pretty fortunate. You know, there's always someone. There's always the next guy in for us. You know, the last 2 years, 2013 and 2014, we had an unbelievable amount of injuries, and we always had people step in and do well, and we've been able to finish each of those years really successfully and strong. This year, you know, maybe the blessing is that we haven't had a whole bunch of those serious injuries.
Fort Osage is ranked #1 in the state. How are you guys preparing for them this week?
Well, we're just going to try to make sure that every time we practice, we're practicing with a purpose, that we're not just going through the motions. The kids, you know, I think the kids understand that we're up against the #1 team in both the greater Kansas City area and in the state. Now, we've already played the #2 team in the city, the #3 team in the city, and we've beaten the #12 team in the city. So we know that we're right in there. We should be a part of the conversation, and I think that our kids are eager to prove that we should be part of the conversation on Friday night. So hopefully we'll have some good high-intensity practices and get used to that game speed and be ready to roll.
What are some ways you help motivate your team for the season?
Well, we talk to them all the time. You know, do the right thing, stay out of trouble, get your minds right. You know, it's a constant thing. You know, we don't have a lot of campfires and pillow fights to build our team chemistry. All right, we do that through the work that we do together, and they gain a bond with one another as a result of all that work. All right, thanks for coming. See you next week. Good job, guys.
Doug Davis, head coach, Lady Eagle Women's Tennis. Our season was completed last Friday. We had team districts and individual districts. We lost in the first round to Staley in team districts and did not have any players advance from individual districts. We had a doubles team get 6th. Our 2 singles players got 7th and 8th, and then our second doubles team got 8th place as well.
All right, what do you think your team could have done better at districts?
Well, I think actually our 3 entries played really, really well. I think we were expecting a little bit more from our first entry. our doubles team that got seeded number 3 going in. So I think we were expecting a little bit more from them. But other than that, I mean, it was actually we played very, very well for the season that we've had and the players that we have. So proud of the girls, proud of our season, and we just keep getting better. That's kind of our goal.
How did you help keep your team motivated this season?
It was, that's a good question. It's tough at times. I think this season, again, with all our injuries and illnesses that we've had, and players playing out of position a lot, I think discouragement was at times could be pretty high. So I think it was just dealing with that, letting them know that I appreciate their flexibility, just keep focusing them on where I want them to be, I guess would be the main thing. The player that I see that they can be, and that I want them to be in the future. I think that would probably be the big thing. Focus on that rather than on what's going on right now.
Since tennis is considered to be a mental sport, what's one thing that you're doing as a coach to, like you're saying, like keep them encouraged during like these tough like switch rounds that you guys are doing? So can you just describe to me like what are you doing specifically as your role in coach, and what Coach Zeg is doing as her in her role? Like what are you guys doing for that?
Well, I think at the JV level, again, we just want to focus on mainly just developing the shots, the skills. And then at the varsity level, especially with the mental approach, I think we really focus on teaching the players during a match to focus on what they need to do, not what's going on in the match. So necessarily not what the score is, or is this a big point, or who am I playing, but just focus on what we need to do, where the ball needs to go, what shots I need to play. Doubles, it works a lot better because doubles there's a lot of strategy, so the players are thinking along those lines while they're playing, and they have a partner. Singles can be pretty tough because you're out there by yourself, and it can be really, really mentally draining. So I think that there it's just simply, focus on each shot at a time and focus on what I am doing and not on what else is going on around me. I think that's the simple, and then just everything, keep it simple. Just try to keep everything simple.
All right, you mentioned injuries before, so how did that set back your team?
Oh, I think it set back our team a lot this year. I think, I think the last time we had the press conference, I had not played all my starting players in their right spot at that point. That was September 10th, I think. So when we finally got everybody back and in the right place, we went for a 2-week period. So really for only 2 weeks of the season have we had our entire starting lineup in. And during that stretch, we were 4-2. And we won second place in a tournament. So, but then we lost our number 2 player again. Didn't have her for team district. She did not play with us, and she probably wasn't full to go either for the individual district. So, that's where the discouragement I think came out a little bit this year. It was a little frustrating at times, and but at the same time the girls are much better than they were, and I think during that stretch we saw who we could be, which is exciting because we have. Almost our entire core back next year.
What are some things you're going to do to prepare for next season?
Well, we will, again, we're lucky that we get to keep our core together. So the idea is just to play and develop them together. So we will have, we give the girls about a month off, and then we'll start with indoor practices as a team in November. And we'll do that December, January, February. Hopefully we'll be outside. But just the goal to just keep them together, practicing together, developing together, and then we'll have our tennis camp in the summer.
How has the loss of your seniors last year and your high varsity members shaken up your team? And were you guys able to work through this and pull off a good season, in your opinion? Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think we are a much better team than we were last year, much improved. The girls, again, have been very committed in the off season and during the season just to do what we need to do to get better. And we've laid those things out, things that we need to do, like doubles. I think last year we won a total of, I think it might be 15 doubles matches, and we've won 28 this year. So greatly improved there. And so there's just specific things that we're doing. They're on our website. There's just stuff that the players know that they need to be working on, and when we work on together. And there's specific skills. Techniques and things like that, and I think we're really close. We're really excited about next year. We will miss, our seniors definitely.
And they were big this year, especially when we had our injuries and illnesses. We're going to miss them, but we still, our nucleus will be back.
What were some of your strengths as a team this year?
I think our number one strength was just flexibility, adaptation. I mean, I think, there were so many matches the players didn't know where they would be playing, what spot, who would be their doubles partner, just because of everything that was going on. We had to make a lot of decisions during a match. Players would just warm up, and then we would have to decide whether they could go or not. Some players we just decided to set at certain times, and it just got a little crazy for a little bit. So, I mean, I think that would be our greatest strength. I mean, the players just showed up. They didn't complain. They just played out of their positions, out of their spots. So again, if you're familiar with singles, if my number one who was out and my number two are out, then everybody's moving up 1 or 2 spots, and that's just tough in singles. That's tough. So no complaints. They just did it, and people played with different doubles partners. So I think in the end, hopefully that'll be good for us. But that was our biggest strength this year.
Did your team meet your expectations for the season?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. When we were setting our goals, we thought that we could compete for the conference championship this year. And then once all the injuries and stuff started happening, we kind of put that in the backseat. But we actually did. We ended up 4-1, so we got second place. So we lost to the team that won it, Staley. So actually, that was really good. And luckily, that happened to be in that 2-week period where we were all healthy in there. So I think just at the end, we had a picture, our coaches had a picture in our mind where our players would be, and we were actually ahead of that at the end of the season. So yeah, they did a good job.
Have you seen any blessings in disguise this season where it might have happened and it seemed like a huge setback at the time, like maybe some of the injuries or loss of seniors, and then it ended up being something really miraculous and a turnaround point for your team?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the injuries and stuff could be a blessing in disguise. I think, again, players playing at different spots, playing up, playing against harder competition, playing with different doubles partners, I think it's just going to make us more flexible, and it's just going to make us better for next year. Yeah, okay. All right, well, thank you. Look forward to doing this again next season. Thanks for having me, and yeah, I think that's it.